No, Siri.
Okay, I found this on the web for Hi Sarah Zach Richie. Check it out.
Damn her. I have too many favorite books with the word kill in it. I'm a lot today. I'm a lot every day, but I feel like I'm more a lot than usual today. I don't know. Today would be a day to get it. I'm sorry you're gonna watch this video 2 weeks later. I was not predicted that I was going to be murdered. I feel like I should knock on all the wood. My battery already died once. We don't have time for this. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse and welcome to what is coming out in March. Here we are again with another video of upcoming books, and you guys, this one, just like warn you in advance, is absurdly long. There are so many books coming out, particularly on March 5th. I can't even. So we're not even gonna waste any time. We're gonna dive right in. You can only imagine how many of these I am lusting after, so let's talk about them. So as always, I will have dates and links to all of the books down below as of the time of filming this, asterisk, asterisk. These are the correct pub dates, but things can always shift, although I feel like we're in a good spot considering I'm filming this like 2 weeks ahead of time. Okay, here we go. Book number 1 is Bye Baby by Carola Lovering. And this is kind of pitched, it says, an unflinching look at the battling forces of toxicity and love, which defines so many female friendships. So you guys know I love a dark and messed up female friendship. I love a toxic friendship. I am currently reading that book, Social Creature, which I'll let you know what I think when I'm done, but definitely has toxic female friendship vibes to it. But this book, it says every friendship has its shadow. So we are following Billy and Cassie, and it says on a brisk fall night in a New York apartment, 35-year-old Billy West hears terrified screams. It's her lifelong best friend Cassie, one floor above, and she's just realized her infant daughter has gone missing. Billy is shaken as she looks down into her own arms to see the baby. This is me how I hold a baby. Remembering with a jolt of fear that she is responsible for the kidnapping that has instantly shattered Cassie's world. So the two were very fast good friends when they were younger. They have grown apart now that they are adults. And it says it's told in alternating perspectives, and it confronts the myriad ways friendships change and evolve over time, the lingering echoes of childhood trauma, and the impact of women's choices on their lifelong relationships. So, sounds fantastic. Can't wait to read it. The next book I have is The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. This is another New York City apartment that we have going on here. So in this one we have Rosie and Chad, and they are barely making ends meet when they receive some life-changing news. I almost said life-changing reviews. Chad's late uncle has left them his luxury apartment in the historic Windmere in glamorous Murray Hill. With its pre-war elegance and impeccably uniformed doorman, the building is the epitome of old New York charm. One would almost never suspect the dark history lurking beyond its perfectly maintained facade. So already I'm getting Home Before Dark vibes. No, not Home Before Dark. Lock Every Door vibes. Get my Riley Sagers right. So we've got the building, its eclectic tenants, and as they settle into their new home, Rosie starts to suspect there's more to the Windmere than meets the eye. Why is the doorman ever present? Why are there cameras everywhere? Why have so many gruesome crimes occurred there throughout the years? So definitely feels like Lock Every Door vibes. I'm very curious about it. Obviously has a little bit of Rosemary's Baby vibes to it. I don't know that there's anything supernatural to this book, but we'll find out. We'll find out. It's Lisa Unger. We're going to have murder. We're going to have mystery. We're going to have some tensions. So I have not read one of her books in a couple of years, but I am definitely a fan of hers. So here we go. Here we go. A lot of new people, a lot of favorite authors, familiar authors having new books coming out this month, including the next one. So hold on a second, because I actually have a copy of this one. So if you want to hear Audrey scream, watch her open up a package. This is Murder Road by Simone St. James. This came in the mail yesterday. I screamed. Like I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got this book. So thank you so much to Berkeley. I'm so freaking excited. So I have read a few Simone St. James books. I am definitely behind on her and need to get cracking. And I'm just very intrigued by this one. I mean, I'm intrigued by all of her books, but like I'm super jazzed about this. So in this it says, we have a young couple finds themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road. So we have July 1995. April and Eddie have taken a wrong turn. Sorry guys. They're looking for a small resort town where they plan to spend their honeymoon when they spot what appears to be a lone hitchhiker along the deserted road they stop to help. But not long after the woman gets into their car, they see the blood seeping from her jacket and a truck barreling down Atticus Line after them. When the hitchhiker dies at a local hospital, April and Eddie find themselves in the crosshairs of the Cold Lake Falls police. Unexplained murders have been happening along Atticus Line for years, and the cops finally have 2 witnesses who easily become their only suspects. So I am really interested in this. And I'm curious because I don't even want to flip and risk seeing anything. She usually writes dual timelines, so I don't know if we're going to get past timelines. I'm so like, oh gosh, I don't want to look. But I'm really, really excited for this and planning to read it on the sooner side. I am in such a 2024 new release mode. But if you guys are a fan of Simone St. James, like, she's back with a new one. She's back and I'm here for it. And I'm super excited. Thank you, Berkeley. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Back to the list. Tana French has a new book, The Hunter. Now, I have talked about some of these books in my most anticipated overall of the year list, so there might be a shade of deja vu to this, but in case you didn't see that one or you just want to keep hearing about them, I have read 3 of the Dublin Murder Squad series books from Tana French, and I am on a mission to finish that series. So stay tuned for that. This is not part of that series, but this is part of, I don't know if it's like officially a series. So I know The Witch Elm was a standalone, and then The Searcher, I believe this is like a sequel to The Searcher, I would say. So it says, it's a blazing summer when 2 men arrive in a small village in the west of Ireland. One of them is coming home. Both of them are coming to get rich. One of them is coming to die. So Cal Hooper is the character who was in The Searcher who carries over into this one. I have not yet read that book, so I don't want to read anything more about this book because I don't know if it's going to tell me something that happened in the first book, but I'm a big fan of Tana French. I was turned on to her by actually an agent at a writing conference that I went to ages ago, and I hadn't heard of Tana French yet, and this is when I still lived in the city. There was a Barnes & Noble on the corner across the street from where I lived, and you can imagine how much time I spent at that place. When I walked home from the conference, I went into Barnes & Noble, I bought In the Woods, and I completely fell in love with it. So I'm very excited for Tana to have a new book out there. Okay, on a completely lighter note, the next book is Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. So this is the 4th book in the Finley Donovan series by El Cosimano, and we're just going to continue to see what Finley gets up to. So I don't want to talk plot to you guys because if you haven't gotten this far into the series yet, I don't want to ruin anything. But the premise of the original Finley Donovan is killing it. Finley is a mystery writer, and she winds up getting involved in like a real life murder, and it's sort of a case of mistaken identity. She's mistaken as a hit woman. She winds up getting hired to kill this woman's husband. Hijinks ensue. Her former nanny, Vero, who becomes her partner in crime. The 2 of them just get all sorts of into it. So Finley is a divorced mom of 2. Her husband is hot garbage who lives down the street. He's not hot. He's just like flaming garbage. And we get to see like all the hijinks. There's some love interest. There's some love triangle. It's very Lucy and Ethel meets Dead to Me. And I thoroughly enjoyed the series. So I have read the 3 Finley books and the 3.5 novella about Veronica Ruiz breaks the bank. So that's her origin story. So this is totally on my radar. I do have an e-arc of this, which I'm very excited about. And I'm excited to see what happens next. This is just pure like candy fun for me. Love this series. The next book I have is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. So this is one of my pre-orders. I actually just got the audiobook arc of this also, which I'm pretty jazzed about. So it says, what if you thought you murdered your best friend? And if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? So after Lucy is found wandering the streets covered in her best friend Savvy's blood, everyone thinks she's a murderer. Lucy and Savvy were the golden girls of their small Texas town. Pretty, smart, and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger new home. Savvy was the social butterfly, loved by all, and, if you believe the rumors, especially popular with the men in town. It's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA to start a new life. So we wind up getting a true crime podcast and a very good-looking host of said podcast who is investigating Savvy's murder. And Lucy has to return to the place she vowed she'd never go back to and revisit memories she vowed she would never return to. So it actually sounds very similar to Everyone Who Can Forgive Me Is Dead by Jenny Hollander, which came out in January, which I just read. So this is definitely in my wheelhouse of, it's not really like a trope, but I mean like bad thing in the past, coming back to haunt you in the present, forced to revisit old memories. I love that entire concept. I love a true crime podcast. I'm very excited to read this one, and I've heard some great buzz and reviews from people who've already read it. So this is very high on my list. Next up, totally 180, is Take Two, Birdie Maxwell by Alison Wynne Scotch. So I have read a bunch of Alison Wynne Scotch's books, and I just adore all of them. I have a few to catch up on that I am belatedly behind on, that I'm 100% behind on, that I haven't read yet. Anyway, huge fan of hers. I love her humor. I love her writing style. I think we are of the same age, so her pop culture references always hit really like to home. So in this one, it says, Hollywood's biggest rom-com star tries to recover from her damaged reputation by staging her own rom-com and following a lead on a lost love in a new rom-com by Alison Wynne Scotch. So we are following Birdie. She thought she got everything she wanted out of life, fame, adoration, and an A-list Hollywood career. But after an on-set feud goes viral, she leaves LA for the one place where no one would think to find her, her hometown. I love a reluctant return home. I love it, I love it, I love it. So she stumbles upon a love letter from a former boyfriend asking for a second chance. And there's just one issue. The letter was unsigned and she's not sure which of her exes sent it. Still, a public reunion with an ex-boyfriend could turn the wave of public opinion back in her favor. Life imitating art, what could possibly go wrong? So then we have Elliot O'Brien, star reporter who knows that life isn't actually a rom-com. Case in point, he spent 2 years repressing his long simmering feelings for his twin sister's best friend, Birdie. But with his journalism career cratering and Birdie back in their hometown at the same time that he is, he realizes that chronicling her search for her long ago ex might be his opportunity to right some wrongs. So they hit the road in an RV and try and track down all of her exes. I feel like there might be a love connection between the two of them. That doesn't feel like a stretch. And we'll see what happens. So again, like I said, I really enjoy her and I'm excited she has a new book coming out. So had to talk about it. And then next up, we're gonna go right back into thriller land. The next book is called Like It Never Happened by Jeff Hoffman. So this says, decades ago, 4 friends concealed a deadly secret, but not all lies will stay buried. So again, this also feels like the Amy Tintero book. So 30 years ago, Tommy, Malcolm, Henry, and Kevin were the best friends, graduating from high school together, almost as close as brothers until the night they did something terrible. The decision to keep hidden what they did in that parking lot shattered their friendship and warped their lives. But when Kevin, struggling with a heroin addiction, drives his motorcycle into the side of a truck, the other 3 find themselves together again at Kevin's funeral. So they wind up meeting Kevin's wife, who seems to know a bit about what happened. She's a reporter. They're kind of nervous about what she knows and what she's going to do with this information. And it says, after watching her husband pay a steep price for keeping the friend's secret, Naomi has crafted a plan to make Tommy, Malcolm, and Henry pay their fair share. When the 3 men decide to fight back, they're forced to decide just how far they'll go this time. So it says it's for fans of Allison Galen, love, and Ashley Winstead, love. So we will see. I don't know, this really, again, it's right in that wheelhouse of that past mystery and just all sorts of bad choices, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, but I'm very excited for this one. The next book is Women of Good Fortune by Sophie Wan. So this sounds like a sting operation kind of a book. I don't know if it's like an Ocean's 11-y kind of a thing with a little bit of maybe Crazy Rich Asians. So this is set against a high society Shanghai wedding. And we have our main character named Lulu, and she's always been taught that money is the ticket to a good life. So when Shanghai's most eligible bachelor surprises her with a proposal, the only acceptable answer is yes, even if the voice inside her head is saying no, because he's got a lot of money and his family fortune would solve all of her parents' financial woes. But Lulu isn't in love or ready for marriage. So she winds up confiding in her 2 best friends who are also looking for kind of a different life. So Rena is tired of being passed over for promotions, and Jane, a sharp-tongued, luxury-chasing housewife, is desperate to divorce her husband and trade up. So they both want to change their lives, but they can't do it without money. But Lulu's wedding is the golden opportunity and the social event of a season, and there's going to be a lot of money as wedding presents. So if they can steal the money on the big day, they will all get what they want in the end. So they need a brilliant and trustworthy crew to help them. And it says, but as the plot grows increasingly complicated and relationships are caught in the crossfire, the women are forced to face that having it all might come at a steep price. So the entire plot of this book just completely intrigued me. And I loved Crazy Rich Asians. I'm totally here for hijinks ensuing and just all sorts of great fun. So I always need a palate cleanser from the dark and messed up. And that's one of mine. That's definitely one of mine. The next book I have is a YA mystery, and this is called The Summer She Went Missing by Chelsea Ichaso. And A, I liked the cover, and B, the main character's name is Audrey, so I kept reading. So this is Last Summer They Searched for Audrey Covington, which honestly, if I married Ben Covington from Felicity and that would be my name, I would die. So last summer they searched for Audrey Covington. This summer they're searching for the truth. So Paige Redmond has always felt lucky to spend her summers in Clearwater Ridge, with lazy days sunning at the waterfalls and nights partying at the sprawling houses of the rich families who vacation there. So the Covingtons are one of these families, and beautiful, brilliant Audrey Covington is Paige's best friend. And last year, when Audrey's crush-worthy brother Dylan finally started to notice Paige, she was sure it would be the best summer ever. Except Audrey doesn't quite seem like herself. Then one night she doesn't come home. Although Audrey wasn't the first girl to disappear in Clearwater Ridge, she left behind more lies than clues. Now, one summer later, her case has gone cold, and nobody, least of all Paige, can make sense of what happened. So Paige is going to be looking into this. It sounds like she's going to stumble upon some secrets. She's going to look into the other missing girls, and we're going to find out what happens. So give me Audrey Covington any day of the week, and I'm here for it. I do love me a good YA mystery thriller, and here's another one that I picked. Hi everybody, it is Editing Audrey, who realized that she missed a book, because what's better for a video that's like 50 minutes long than to add another book to the list. So apologies, non-apologies, it's a book you guys all need to know about. So anyway, I feel like there's an SNL skit somewhere in here where it was like, you know what would look great with those slacks? Clogs. Or like, what would look great with those jeans? Clogs. So I feel like, you know what would be great on a 50-minute video? Adding 5 more minutes. But here we go. A Good Bad Boy, Luke Perry and How a Generation Grew Up. This is by Margaret Wappler. So I fully had this comes out on March 5th. I had it flipped as May 3rd because sometimes I do things like that. So this is tributed. This is described as an artful and contemplative tribute to the late actor famed for his role as Dylan McKay on 90210, amongst other roles. So I was a diehard 90210 fan, and while I would say my heart definitely belonged to Brandon, I was a Brenda Dylan, yes, from the beginning, loved them together, but I not so secretly wanted Brandon all to myself. So I am very intrigued about this book. So it says, so this actually is kind of coinciding with the 5th anniversary of his death, which I can't believe it's been 5 years. And it says, a profound and entertaining examination of what it means to be an artist and an adult. So I think a lot of this is about his attempts to sort of escape that 90210 world in a lot of ways, like when he did Oz and tried to have different roles, what it was like to kind of have that instant fame that he had, how that changed him, or not changed him, changed the world around him, and didn't change him, I feel like is one of the big takeaways. So if you guys are a fan of 90210 at all, if you listen to any of the podcast interviews, stories, like Jenny Garth and Tori Spelling have a podcast, some of the original creators, executive producers, they have a podcast. Shannon Doherty now has a podcast, which is like my most favorite thing ever. But if you listen to anybody talk about him, guest stars, people in other shows and things that he's worked on, the cast from Riverdale, anything, everybody talks about just what a warm, welcoming, kind, generous person he was from the moment he met you. Like people who guest starred on the show. And I'm trying to think who it was, which is going to drive me bananas. But it was like someone who was on the show for like, I don't even know if it was like 1 or 2 guest appearances. And he was like picking her up from her house because her car broke down, and just was the first person to welcome him in and come sit with us at lunch. And hi, I'm Luke and welcome to the set. And we're so excited you're here. And just what like a genuinely incredible human he was. So it talks about obviously his career being cut way, way, way too short. And his role on Riverdale and his final role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Tarantino, and just how much more he could have done and should have done, and just the tragedy that goes with it. But it says there's original interviews, exhaustive archival research, and it says Wappler weaves poignant vignettes of memory in which she serves as an avatar to show how Perry shaped a generation's views on masculinity, privilege, and the idea of cool. So obviously he was very much the James Dean character, you know, reading all the literature, super rich boy, but all alone, living in his hotel, super vulnerable in a lot of ways. I think the relationship with him and Brenda, obviously, like so many other Jake Ryan men I saw on TV, where I was like, why can't I find a boy like this? Why aren't they all emotional like Dylan and broken but loving and all fantastic? But I've always enjoyed Luke Perry. I loved seeing him on Riverdale. And even after he passed away and Shannon Doherty was on it, I just loved it so much. So I'm very intrigued to see this, read this. I have my Jason Priestley book back here, which I'm super overdue on. So maybe I will do like a crush-worthy kind of back-to-back reading thing. So anyway, did not want to miss out on this book. Comes out on March 5th. Thank you for tolerating me. And now back to the rest of the gigantic long video. This would be a great time to refill your drink because I'm going to keep talking. Next up is Anita Damonte Laughs Last by Xochitl Gonzalez. So I actually just got an audiobook arc of this one as well, which I'm super excited about. Publishers Weekly gave it a star review and calls it incandescent, which I love. Totally unrelated to anything I'm about to talk about, but does anyone remember the season 1, 90210, where Brenda tries to be a blonde and then she dyes her hair back and Dylan calls it incandescent? I don't know why. This is what is clogging up my brain. This is what life is like in here. Okay, 1985. Back to the book. Back to Anita Damonte. It's 1985 and Anita Damonte is a rising star in the art world and she is found dead in New York City. Her tragic death is the talk of the town until it isn't. By 1998, Anita's name has been all but forgotten. Certainly by the time Raquel, a third-year art history student, is preparing her final thesis. On College Hill, surrounded by privileged students whose futures are already paved out for them, Raquel feels like an outsider. Students of color like her are the minority there, and the pressure to work twice as hard for the same opportunities is no secret. But when Raquel becomes romantically involved, I'm like clutching my pearls. When Raquel becomes romantically involved with a well-connected older art student, she finds herself unexpectedly rising up the social ranks. As she attempts to straddle both worlds, she stumbles upon Anita's story, raising questions about the dynamics of her own relationship, which eerily mirrors that of the forgotten artist. So it says we move back and forth through time and told from the perspective of both women. It's a propulsive, witty examination of power, love, and art, daring to ask who gets to be remembered and who is left behind in the rarefied world of the elite. So I'm very intrigued by this. I live for 1985 and then I doubly live for 1998. So I love that this is set in the past and I'm just very curious to find out what happens. So we have our Ivy League student in the present looking into this mysterious death in the past and we'll find out what happens. So stay tuned. And she is the author of Olga Dies Dreaming, which came out, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I haven't read it, but my eye is up on this one. So stay tuned for more. And then now we're gonna roll into a book I've actually read. So the next one is Watch It Burn by Kristen Bird. This is out on March 12th. So I had the great fortune of getting the arc of this. You guys have heard this story. So was part of as the time this video is coming out, part of the team that is helping to launch and promote this book for Kristen. I have read all 3 of her books. She is fantastic. She is the kindest person. And this book is following 3 women. So it is set in a small Texas town and there is this company called Genetive Inc., which swears it's not a cult, but is kind of totally a cult. And when the book opens, Beverly Hoffman, who is a 65-year-old woman who was well respected in the town, beloved, she's lived there her entire life, is found dead in the Guadalupe River in 2 inches of water, and her death is ruled a drowning. So she is the wife of the founder of Genetive Inc., which is totally not just taking over the town, but one of those self-help professional development rah-rah kind of companies that is sort of taking over the world. So super rich and famous people, celebrities, everyone who joins it swears it's life-changing. A little bit of a NXIVM vibe to it. So our three main characters in this are Nicole, Jenny, and Robin. So Nicole is a school teacher in town. She's out for the morning run. She finds Beverly's body. She calls the police, and then she calls her friend Jenny, who is a journalist who has recently returned to their hometown from LA with her husband and kids in tow. And she's trying to reestablish her career as a journalist. And then Robin is Beverly's daughter-in-law, and the three girls, daughter-in-law, and the three girls grew up together, women grew up together, and they all know something isn't quite right about Beverly's death, about it being ruled a drowning, and something is not quite right about Genevieve. So they start to look into it. And this is very much about three very fierce women who are looking to get the truth at all costs and are happy to burn it all down. So I loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. I've enjoyed each one of her books. This one was very fun. There was something in particular I was hoping was going to happen that did happen, which always makes me really happy. And I really just enjoyed the friendship and the dynamic between the three of them. So I love a culty book. Bring it all day long. This was great. This was absolutely great. And then we have Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. So I have read a bunch of her books as well, and I really enjoy them. This is like her first official love story, I would say. So all of her books are pitched as love stories. Some people don't like that because the first book was very much about platonic best female friends and the love that they have for each other. The second book was very much a mother and daughter's love, but this is romantic love. And I mean, she's written more books before that, but kind of these 3 books in 5 years and One Italian Summer, and now we have Expiration Dates. They're all standalones, but anyway, her books are pitched as love stories, and I really think they are. It's just not always a traditional romantic love story, but this one is. Being single is like playing the lottery. There's always the chance that with one piece of paper you could win it all. So in this one we are following Daphne Bell, and she believes that the universe has a plan for her. Every time she meets a new man, she receives a slip of paper with his name and a number on it, the exact amount of time they will be together. The papers told her she'd spend 3 days with Martin in Paris, 5 weeks with Noah in San Francisco, and 3 months with Hugo, her ex-boyfriend turned best friend. Daphne has been receiving the numbered papers for over 20 years, always wondering when there might be one without an expiration. Finally, the night of a blind date at her favorite Los Angeles restaurant, there's only a name, Jake. But as Jake and Daphne's story unfolds, Daphne finds herself doubting the paper's prediction and wrestling with what it might mean to be both committed and truthful. Because Daphne knows things Jake doesn't, information that if he found out would break his heart. Told with her signature warmth and insight into matters of the heart, Rebecca Searle has finally set her sights on romantic love. So I just very much enjoy her writing. I enjoy her storytelling. Such emotional resonance to her books. I cried when I read In 5 Years. I cried when I read One Italian Summer. I will no doubt cry reading this one as well, but I really enjoy her. I think she's smart. She writes really strong stories. Again, her characters always intrigue me. She wrote the Famous in Love series, which I haven't read, but which became like a TV show. So she has a long-standing career as well, which doesn't mean anything one way or another, other than to say that if you really enjoy her books, there's a lot more you can dig into in the past. So high on my list. Very excited for this one. Okay, the next book is another one that I have read. This is Kill for Me, Kill for You. I don't know why I always do that in like a weird Oprah-ish voice. I don't even know. This is by Steve Kavanaugh. This is a standalone novel, and this came out in the UK last year, and one of my fantastic viewers, thank you very much, turned me onto it because I didn't even know it existed. So I bought it, read it, loved it. This is a Strangers on a Train premise. This is definitely a book best served knowing as little as possible. So anytime I talk about it, I just read the UK blurb on the inside, which is much more concise and less giveaway-ish than a US one is. So it says, one dark evening in New York City, 2 strangers meet by chance. Over drinks, Amanda and Wendy realize they have so much in common. They both feel alone, they both drink alone, and they both desperately want revenge against the 2 men who destroyed their families. Together they have the perfect plan. If you kill for me, I'll kill for you. This is amazing. I loved it. You guys know. Peter Swanson, A Time to Kill. No, I do it every time. I do it every time. Not A Time to Kill. The Kind Worth Killing. I have too many favorite books with the word kill in it. Kind Worth Killing is one of my all-time favorite books. It's a strangers on a train concept. It's strangers on an airplane, and I love everything about it. I will read any book that has that premise. Steve Kavanaugh does a pretty fantastic job, not of unseating Peter Swanson. It's like the same but totally different. Apples and oranges, kind of. He had me with this book. I was page turning. One thing that definitely was messing with my mind is I was thinking like, well, in the Kind Worth Killing, this is what's going to happen. So I was anticipating things that couldn't have been more wrong, because I'm thinking like, well, a Strangers on a Train plot goes like this. And I've read the Patricia Highsmith book. I've seen the movie. So I couldn't stop predicting things from happening that couldn't have been more wrong. But I loved it. I thought the characters were fantastic. I thought the mystery was fantastic. I think he got me hook, line, and sinker with this book, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I also love that, and I'm sure this is what the cover is supposed to be. There is a sequence on the escalators at the MetLife building, and if you know, you know, but I used to work in that building, and the number of times I went up and down those escalators on the daily, I don't know, I could not picture myself in this book in that scene. Just has nothing to do with anything other than I love it when there's something in a book that I'm like, I literally have been there and I know exactly what you're talking about. So anyway, good times, highly recommend it. Go into it dark and enjoy the extremely dark ride that he takes you on. Okay, the next book is A Midnight Puzzle, and this is a secret staircase novel by Gigi Pandian. So this is the third in a series. I haven't started the series yet. I did buy the first book. So I actually was on a Sisters in Crime, I want to say it was a Nano pep talk event, and she led it, and it was just fantastic. So I just kind of like fell for her as an author, a storyteller. Her advice was so fantastic. Her encouragement was fantastic. And I was like, I need to see what this is all about. So she wrote, let me get the order of the books correct for you guys. So this is Under Lock and Skeleton Key is the first book in the series. The Raven Thief is the second book, and then A Midnight Puzzle is the third. So I'm going to just talk about the first book because since I haven't read it yet, I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Also, I will say at the time of me filming this hardcover version of this book is $3.29 on Amazon. So today would be a day to get it. I'm sorry you're going to watch this video 2 weeks later, but check it out. Okay, so it says, an impossible crime, a family legacy, an intrigue of hidden rooms and secret staircases. After a disastrous accident derails Tempest Raj's career and life, she heads back to her childhood home in California to comfort herself with her grandfather's Indian home-cooked meals. Though she resists, every day brings her closer to the inevitable, working for her father's company. Secret Staircase Construction specializes in bringing the magic of childhood to all by transforming clients' homes with sliding bookcases, intricate locks, backyard treehouses, and hidden reading nooks. When Tempest visits her dad's latest renovation project, her former stage double is discovered dead inside a wall that supposedly has been sealed for more than a century. Fearing she was the intended victim, it's up to Tempest to solve this seemingly impossible crime. But as she delves further into the mystery, she can't help but wonder if the Raj family curse that's plagued her family for generations, something she used to swear didn't exist, has finally come true. So I love the idea of locked rooms, hidden staircases, sliding bookshelves. It kind of reminds me of the Inheritance game. It just sounds like incredibly great fun. We get a little bit of mystery, of course, in here because we've got I don't want to say a fantastic dead body, but it's fantastic that we have a dead body. And I don't know when my battery died, but it totally did. But what I was saying is that I'm extremely excited for this book and I'm going to read the first one and then I'm excited to continue into the series. So just sounds great. Just sounds great. Sounds great. The next book I have is The Mystery Writer. This is by Sulari Gentile. She wrote The Woman in the Library, which I loved. That was the scream kind of heard around the world in the Boston Public Library and a group of strangers who wind up banding together to find out what happened. I was obsessed with that book. I absolutely loved it. So in this one, we have, there's nothing easier to dismiss than a conspiracy theory until it turns out to be true. Okay, so as I am reading about this book, I feel like this is probably better to go into it somewhat blind. And I also feel like the description makes it more confusing than it is. So the high level above the fold is the killing of a famous author turns a faithful protege into a fanatic sleuth. So we are following Australian college student Theodosia Benton. She has abruptly left university, moved to the United States, and kind of lands on her brother's doorstep in Kansas. And she wants to abandon her degree and write a book. So kind of an instant rub with her and her brother Gus, but she winds up staying with him. And it says she meets writer Dan Murdoch at a restaurant, and Theodosia, quickly manages to become his friend and avid writing student. But then Dan is murdered, and his agent Veronica hires Theo to find his killer, who also apparently snatched the manuscript of Dan's latest novel. So it sounds like there's two intertwined mysteries that I think will probably make more sense when you're physically reading the book, but I also don't want to read too much into it. So Kirkus says it's a fizzy whodunit with pace, panache, and surprises galore. That's about all I need to know. So love The Woman in the Library, love a book about a writer, and I will 1000% read this book because I have the e-arc of it and I'm very excited for it. So stay tuned. I'm sure I will do a better job, hopefully, describing this after I've read it. I have found with so many books, as I try to pitch them blind to you guys, like books I haven't read when I'm doing these, and then after I read the book, not that they're not well described, but I feel like I can do a much better job. Not that I can do a better job than other people, but I can do a better job than I initially did after I've read it, which is la-duh. But I feel like I butcher these sometimes, or they don't always, I'm not always coherent as I would like to be. I don't know. Okay, let's just move on. Let's just move on. My battery already died once. We don't have time for this. Okay, the next book is Where Sleeping Girls Lie, and this is by Faride Abike Amide. She wrote Ace of Spades. So this is another YA contemporary mystery. And in this one, we have a girl new to a boarding school discovers dark secrets and cover-ups after her roommate disappears. So everything I want in a YA book. I love a boarding school, I love murder, and I'm just very excited for this one. So Sadeh Hussein is starting her 3rd year of high school, this time at the prestigious Alfred Nobel Academy. And she had been homeschooled for all of her life, and now she's going to this boarding school. So misfortune has been her constant companion, but even Sadeh doesn't expect her new roommate Elizabeth to disappear after Sadeh's first night, or for people to think that she had something to do with it. So rumors are swirling around her, and she catches the attention of the girls collectively known as the Unholy Trinity as they bring her into their fold. Between learning more about them, especially Persephone, who Sadeh is inexplicably drawn to, and playing catch-up in class, Sadeh already has so much on her plate. But when it seems people don't care enough about what happened to Elizabeth to really investigate it, it's up to her and Elizabeth's best friend to solve it. And then a student is found dead. I'm so intrigued by this book. I love this cover. I really want to know what the bird means. Totally intrigued by this cover, but I love the sound of the story. I love a boarding school. I love anything that is going to put our characters into an amateur sleuthing kind of a mode. I love what sounds like kind of a secret society, and it just sounds absolutely fantastic. So Ace of Spades was great. I'm very intrigued to read more by her, and I'm going to, and now I can, because it'll be out in a couple of weeks. Okay, back to an adult thriller. This is Everyone is Watching by Heather Gutenkopf. So this is pitched as Big Brother meets Clue. So give me Clue all the livelong day. So the best friend, the confidant, the senator, the boyfriend, the executive. 5 contestants have been chosen to compete for $10 million on a game show called One Lucky Winner. The catch? None of them knows what or who to expect, and it will be live streamed all over the world. Completely secluded in an estate in Northern California, with strict instructions not to leave the property and 0 contact with the outside world, the competitors start to feel a little bit too isolated. When long-kept secrets begin to rise to the surface, the contestants realize that this is no longer just a reality show. Someone is out for blood, and the game can't end until the world knows who the contestants really are. Ooh, so I'm very curious about this one. So I will never be on a reality TV show. never lock me up in an isolated place. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love an isolated thriller. I've heard fantastic things about Heather Gutenkopf. I'm ashamed to say I have not read any of her books, but this one might be the one. This one might be the one. Okay, the next book, I will be honest, the title of this book is what got me immediately. It's called How to Solve Your Own Murder, and this is by Kristen Bird. So it is listed as the first of a series. So that might be, here we go. That's fun. Okay. So for fans of Knives Out and the Thursday Murder Club, which I still need to read, an enormously fun mystery about a woman who spends her entire life trying to prevent her foretold murder, only to be proven right 60 years later when she's found dead in her sprawling country estate. Now it's up to her great niece to catch the killer. This is another cover that I absolutely love. Talked about this in a different video. 2024 is crushing the covers. Okay. So back in 1965, teenage Frances Adams is at an English country fair with her two best friends. But Frances's night takes a hairpin turn when a fortune teller makes a bone-chilling prediction. One day, Frances will be murdered. Frances spends a lifetime trying to solve a crime that hasn't happened yet, compiling dirt on every person who crosses her path in an effort to prevent her own demise. I love this. For decades, no one takes Frances seriously until nearly 60 years later when she's found murdered like she always said she would be. In the present day, Annie Adams has been summoned to a meeting at the sprawling country estate of her wealthy and reclusive great aunt Frances. By the time Annie arrives in the quaint English village of Castle Knoll, Frances is already dead. Annie is determined to catch the killer, but thanks to Frances's lifelong habit of digging up secrets and lies, it seems every endearing and eccentric villager might just have a motive for murder. So can Annie unravel this without dredging up the past? No. So can Annie solve this safely, or will dredging up the past throw her in the line of a killer? We will see, we will see, we will see. I'm super excited. I love the idea of this in so many different ways. I 1000% went to a psychic when I was younger. I was not predicted that I was going to be murdered. I feel like I should knock on all the wood. Not things you should say. But she did ask if I wanted to know when my end of days was, and I said yes. And then afterwards, my friend was like, you never say yes to that. So anyway, according to her, I still have lots of time. So we'll see. But I don't know what I would do if she told me I was going to be murdered. I can't not think about that. I don't know. This one sounds just fun. Fun, fun, fun. Really smart. Love the premise of it. And I'm going to talk about it. Okay. We are in the home stretch, you guys. I swear, I swear, I swear. If you're still with me, love you, love you, love you, love you. I know I'm a lot. I'm a lot today. I'm a lot every day, but I feel like I'm more a lot than usual today. I don't know. Okay. The next book I have, this is a wild card in the sense that I had not heard of this before. This is Off the Air by Christina Estes. So I was on that Writers League of Texas January event that Kristen Bird was a part of, and Christina was in the audience. Like you can type in questions and things like that. And she was talking about her book, and this is her book, and it sounded super entertaining. So I 1000% went onto Amazon and added it to my wish list, and here we are now. So it is about a woman named Jolene Garcia. She's a local TV reporter in Phoenix, and it says she splits her time between covering general assignments, anything from monsoon storms to a newborn giraffe at the zoo, and she covers special projects. Stories that take more time to research and produce, stories that Jolene wants to tell. When word gets out about a death at a radio station, Jolene and other journalists swarm the scene, intent on reporting the facts first. The body is soon identified as Larry Lemon, a controversial talk show host who died under suspicious circumstances. That's what we love. So Jolene conducted his final interview, giving her and her station an advantage, but not for long. As the story heats up, so does the competition, and Jolene is determined to solve his murder. It's an investigation that could make or break her career if it doesn't break her first. So this just sounds very fun to me. This is a debut novel, and it says it's equally thought-provoking and entertaining. Again, I love an amateur sleuth angle. I love the competition going on here, and I'm super intrigued by it. So very excited to give this one a read. So Christina herself, the author, was an award-winning reporter in Phoenix. So she recorded on words. She covered presidential campaigns, public policy, education, and business. And I'm just really excited for this. So it sounds like it could be great fun. And I love the like inside baseball of it all. So we're gonna get like the true behind the curtain of what it's like, which should be fantastic and fun. So on my list, bit of a wild card. And then finally, if you guys want to stick around for the last one, the last book I have is When I'm Her by Sarah Zakhrich-Yang. No, Siri.
Okay, I found this on the web for Hi Sarah Zakhrich-Yang. Check it out.
Damn her. Okay, it says, how far would you go to get even with the woman who ruined your life? I love a revenge story. I love a revenge story. In this electrifying thriller, a young woman gets everything she's ever wanted and everything she doesn't when she swaps bodies with her sworn enemy. So I did not mention that Rebecca Searle does magical realism. Definitely something sci-fi-ish weird going on in this one too. Okay, though polar opposites, Mary and Elizabeth are as close as can be. Until the night Elizabeth makes an irrevocable mistake and leaves Mary to take the blame. Years later, Elizabeth seems to have forgotten Mary exists, but Mary hasn't forgotten her. She follows Elizabeth's every move online, obsessed with paying her back for the betrayal that cost Mary her dreams. Now Mary has found a way to switch bodies with Elizabeth, and she's got a plan to steal her charmed life, her career, her looks, her husband. Get it, girl. They do say living well is the best revenge. Or is it? The more Mary uncovers about Elizabeth's life, the more she realizes she may have made a deadly mistake, and she'll need the help of her worst enemy to stay alive. So she is the author of The Other Me, which I haven't read, but I bought on the very strong recommendation of Kate from Killing the Tea. And this is another, it says an inventive page turner about the choices we make and the ones that are made for us. So just as a little bonus content for you guys, The Other Me, it says 1 minute Kelly's a free-spirited artist in Chicago going to her best friend's art show. The next she opens a door and mysteriously emerges in her Michigan hometown. Suddenly her life is unrecognizable. She's got 12 years of the wrong memories in her head, and she's married to Eric, a man she barely knew in high school. So she's trying to get back to her old life. She's got questions. She's trying to figure stuff out. So it almost feels a little bit like the Christina Henry book that I read last year about the women. Good Girls Don't Die. And there's also an Alison Wynne Scotch book where like this woman wakes up in her past life. I love the idea. There was a Laura Caldwell book. This is such a premise that I enjoy because I think about where I would want to wind up if I like opened my bedroom door and walked into a different world, what I would want that world to be. And I have so many ideas in my head of what world I would want to walk into. But anyway, I was very intrigued by the first book. I have it on my shelf. I saw it. If you guys saw my unhaul video, no, have you seen that yet? Yes, you should have seen that by now. If you haven't, you will. If you have, great. If it's up and you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below and up above. But it was one of the books I looked at when I was rearranging my shelves yesterday, and I was like, oh, I gotta read this one, and I like pulled it forward. So anyway, I am intrigued by this author and her storytelling, and When I'm Her is her new book, and The Other Me is already out. And that is the end of all the books that I have that are new that are coming out in March that I'm super excited about. So, oh my gosh, if you guys have stayed the entire time, you're absolutely fantastic. I want to make these videos shorter, but there's so many great books to talk about. So thank you again to Berkeley for sending me Murder Road. Stay tuned, you guys. There's so many of these books that I am planning to jump on. So I'll talk about them after I read them and let you guys know what is something you're looking forward to in March. What have I missed? Tell me what you're thinking. And I'll be back in more videos talking about books, talking about things. And until then, I'll be here and you'll be there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh my gosh, I've talked too much. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.